Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another round of these Jurassic World Dominion pop-up figures from Mattel, and this time I think this is actually Wave 3. I'm pretty sure Wave 2 was already released, but for some reason hasn't arrived here in the United States yet as far as I know. I know it's on Toyopolis, but I don't believe that it's in the United States so far. So we've got Wave 3 here, I believe, which is definitely in the United States, as these were found at Target. And you can see that we've got ourselves an Atrociraptor. We also have the Pyroraptor. We have the Ceratosaurus, which is awesome. I am so happy to have a Ceratosaurus in this line, as well as the Allosaurus, which is almost as exciting as the Ceratosaurus. But I will actually have a review up of the Wave 2 figures as well very soon. But for now, again, we're going to focus on these four, and I'm actually really excited about all of them because they're all figures, all species, I should say, that we haven't had in this type of figure before. As previously we had the Snap Squad, we now have the pop-ups. I prefer the Snap Squads, but the pop-ups are, I guess, pretty cool. But we never had a Pyroraptor, Atrociraptor, Ceratosaurus, or Allosaurus, as far as I can remember anyway, in the pop-ups or the Snap Squads. So that is one thing that's very exciting about this particular wave of pop-ups. There is the Allosaurus, and you can see as far as the packaging goes, it's basically like your standard Jurassic World Dominion packaging. And then of course underneath the dinosaur you can see the species name right there. The back also features some information, but nothing really all that exciting. So let's pop all four of these out of the package, and then we're going to jump straight to a closer look from there. Now we'll begin with the Atrociraptor here, and there has actually been an Atrociraptor in the pop-ups. I stated earlier that these are all new to the line, but technically the Atrociraptor isn't in a way because there was already a Atrociraptor Ghost in the previous round of pop-ups. So technically we have already had an Atrociraptor in the pop-ups, but I've never reviewed it, so this figure is brand new. This species is brand new to me in this line until my Wave 2 figures arrive. But you can see sculpt and detail-wise, it's definitely pretty nice. We've got some great-looking scale detail here on the face of our Atrociraptor, and you've also got some really nice-looking detailing here for the lower jaw. You can instantly pick out the fact that we have a speckling there, as we have a lighter tone for the lower jaw with kind of like a nice off-white, and you can see that we have some black speckles showing up there. And you can also see that we have kind of like a reddish, almost like a red-orange type color for the upper part of the body, and then there's also some dark browns that kind of splotch down and stripe down there in the palate area of our Atrociraptor. You can see the nostrils sculpted really quite nicely. The eyes are painted with a yellow, and they have a nice slit-like black pupil. The inside of the mouth looks pretty good as far as the coloration goes, almost a similar tone of color to the actual body color of this Atrociraptor, but you can also see that the teeth are sculpted pretty nicely, and they also sport a nice gloss coat, and they're painted with kind of an off-white, kind of your standard as far as this type of figure goes. They all look pretty good in there, except for it looks like there's a little chip of paint or something right there, but not too bad. You can see the opposing side of the head also looks pretty nice. You've got some really nice looking scale detail up here on the top of the head as well. As you lead back, you see some striping here running along the back, as we have more of that kind of dark brown striping there from the shoulder area to the tail, but it disappears very quickly as we reach out into the tail. However, you can see that the scale detail continues to look really nice as you lead out into that tail, very reptilian-like scaling. We do have arms sculpted in there, but they're held into the body pretty nicely. You can see they're really almost hidden. There, you can kind of see them there between the massive legs of our Atrociraptor. And as you move down, you can see the leg transitions again to that light tone that we see on the lower jaw. More of that speckling is present, and you have a pretty nice looking foot sculpt with some nicely sculpted nails, but no specific nail paint. However, they definitely have a gloss coat to them, which is nice to see. I just noticed that there's actually no dew claws on these guys, but I guess you don't really expect, accuracy, especially considering just looking at the figure. You can see it's very far from accurate, and none of these figures ever are accurate, but you can also see we have that light tone that runs down along the underside all the way out onto the tail. So the Atrociraptor is pretty nice. I would say this one would be Tiger, I guess. I think that's the one that this is meant to be. Sometimes the Mattel paint jobs are a little confusing, but this one definitely looks like it would be Tiger to me. and definitely a pretty fun figure. I actually really quite like that one. Again, I would prefer these to be the Snap Squad figures, but the pop-ups are fun as well, I guess. And then we've got a raptor of another kind, as this time we've got a Pyroraptor, which again is the first time this figure has been, or this species has been introduced to this type of line. And you can see that we've got some nice feather detail up here on the top of the head leading back there. You can see some really nice feathers kind of sticking out off the back of the head. Same deal as you lead down here, especially leading off of the lower jaw, but you can see how nice the detailing looks on both the upper and lower jaw. Again, we have the same tone of color for the lower jaw as we have here for the top of the head, kind of like a very dark gray, which looks pretty cool. Nicely painted eyes with a yellow, again a slit-like black pupil, but we actually have a line that runs through it. And yes, we kind of have that over here, but it's not quite as obvious. You can really see it on this side. I'm not too sure what that's about. Again, you can see the nostrils sculpted out. The palate is nicely sculpted as well. And again, the mouth is in an open position, as that's part of the action feature for the figures, to have them kind of open their mouths and just sit here looking goofy. And you can see the teeth are sculpted and painted fairly nicely. A little bit of sloppiness, but not terrible. Same tone of color, I think, for the inside of the mouth as what we had seen on the Atrociraptor here for our Pyroraptor. And again, the teeth as well as the tongue and everything in there have a really nice gloss coat. Just like with the others, you can see the arms are held into the body. Unlike the Snap Squads, the arms aren't kind of dangling. They are not articulated. They are completely immovable. But as you lead back here into the body of our Pyroraptor, you start to see kind of like that reddish or almost a maroonish tone. You see more of that dark gray kind of splotching here along the back as you see some feathers kind of running along the spinal column. More feathers leading out into the tail as well. And you can see that through the course of the figure until you here kind of get to the underside. You start to see more of the skin texture again of our Pyroraptor. And pretty similar foot sculpt to what we had just seen on the Atrociraptor with the scoots down the toes and no specific nail paint, but they do kind of sport a gloss coat to them. And you can see that dark gray yet again runs here along the underside, just like we saw with the off-white on the Atrociraptor. It's again a pretty fun figure, but I don't think I like this Pyroraptor quite as much as I liked the Bendy Biters version, as that one was actually awesome. Then we have the most exciting one out of all of these, for me at least. We've got the Ceratosaurus, and the Ceratosaurus kind of is sporting the Jurassic Park 3 tone, sort of like the Jurassic Park 3 color scheme, but at the same time, like, this should be more of like closer to a white rather than the tannish type of a color that we have here. But you can see we do have the really nice reds for the face. You've got that nice horn, that classic horn for our Ceratosaurus, as the Jurassic Park 3 version only has that one horn. And you can see the nostrils as well as the really nice looking skin detail. There's definitely a speckling that I'm picking up on here through the head of the Ceratosaurus. You can really see it up here on the top and definitely out into the body as well. Like, you can see it there in the thigh, pretty much everywhere actually. It's pretty abundant through the figure. You can also see we have a light tone here for the lower jaw, definitely a different tone of color compared to the body. Another yellow eye, but rather than a slit-like pupil, this time we've just got a nice dot there for the pupil. Similar situation to the eye, though, that we can kind of see the line going through it like we had just seen on the Pyroraptor, and I'm not too sure why. The paintwork of the horn as well looks okay, definitely a little tiny bit of sloppiness, but it still looks pretty good. And again, the inside of the mouth might be a slightly different shade of color compared to the others, but it's not far off if it is. But yet again, we can see the nice gloss coat, and the teeth appear to have that same type of coloration, and again, the similar type of sculpt, as they look pretty good for the most part. And they as well sport that gloss coat, and actually it looks like the nasal horn kind of has that gloss coat. But as you lead back into the body, you can kind of see like some osteoderms running along, some ridges running along the back of our Ceratosaurus, and again some more splotchy paint here running along the back as we have a black kind of just designing here through, and you continue to see the speckling and everything all throughout. You can see the arms in there kind of held into the body yet again. The light tone of color does run along the underside, just like we've seen on all the others. And then we've got a pretty nice looking leg sculpt with some nice muscle definition, the kneecap, and a really nice looking foot sculpt with some scoots down the toes. And again, no nail paint, but we do have a glossy look for the nails. So this one's awesome. I absolutely love the Ceratosaurus, and I'm so happy to actually have a figure like this in the line, as we never got a Ceratosaurus in the Snap Squads, but we at least have one for the pop-ups. And the same thing can be said for the Allosaurus, and the Allosaurus as well. Looks pretty awesome. We've got those classic kind of Allosaurus crests right there. The eyes are actually not a yellow, rather than the last three, which did have yellow eyes. We've got a very dark green for the eyes and a nice black pupil on this one. All of the eyes of the figures as well sport a gloss coat to them, which is something I think I failed to mention. But you can see we have a very dark blue here for the head of our Allosaurus until we lead down to the lower jaw. And you can see we have a nice kind of like a light gray. But the inside of the mouth is definitely a different coloration, as we have a blue for the inside of the mouth. Similar tone of blue compared to what we have up there on the head, but definitely a little bit of a lighter tone. You can really see it there on that skin flap there on the side of the mouth. That's really cool. I actually love the fact that we have that bluish tongue and everything, and there's something they've been doing with the Allosaurus figures on the main line as well. Again, the teeth all have that same style of sculpt where they're kind of big and bulky and rounded, but that's pretty much the way that the teeth have looked on these figures the entire time that they've been released, even out into the Snap Squads. And you can see a nice gloss coat again on the inside of the mouth as well as the teeth, just like we saw before. Really nice looking, very vibrant detail throughout the Allosaurus as well. Beautiful scale detail all over. You can see some ridges picking up here on the top of the head, running down into the back. They disappear for a moment and then pick back up briefly and then disappear again as you lead out into the tail, which is also kind of reminiscent to the Allosaurus figures that they've released. We also have that dark blue that kind of stripes down, but encases the entire upper side, so we have that coloration running all the way down through the tail, and you can see how cool that looks. And then we again have this kind of like light, almost greenish brown type color, and then you have tons of those blue speckles. This thing is overloaded with blue speckles throughout the entire figure when it comes to the primary body area. You can see the same deal for the leg over here. Again, they even run out into the nails, which yet again we can see that gloss coat. You've got the arms held into the body again, just like we've seen on all of them. And yes, we do have this kind of like a light grayish tone running here along the underside of the Allosaurus as well. So definitely another really fun figure, and actually all four of these I would say are awesome and definitely better than the first wave of these pop-ups. So as far as the action feature of these figures goes, basically what you want to do is just push it down, and it didn't work, so we'll use the tail to do it. And now you can see it's basically sleeping. So our Allosaurus has now closed its eyes, it closed its mouth, and it's kind of laying its head down, which is actually really quite adorable. But then you want it to pop up, so basically you're just going to press it down, and it basically comes back to life. You can see it wakes up and then I guess becomes very vicious again. And when I had first acquired my Wave 1 version of these figures, I think it was the Dilophosaurus, didn't work very well. So let's make sure that all of these ones work. He's straight away to awake. Same deal with the Atrociraptor, hopefully. Nope. There we go. Now it's awake. And then for the Pyroraptor, yep, all of them work good, so hopefully that was just a one-off as far as these figures go with my Dilophosaurus from the first wave. As far as the size goes, they are exactly the same size as the first round of these figures. I'm not going to measure each and every one. It's kind of obvious. They're a very similar size. So for a length, you're looking at around 3 inches or about 7.5 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the head, just shy of 2 inches or 5 centimeters. And then pretty much the same deal for the tip of the tail. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack, Allosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our pop-ups. And I would imagine at this point you've probably got a pretty good idea as far as the size of the pop-ups go, because they pretty much follow the same similar size as the Snap Squads prior. So, and also just because these pop-ups have been pretty frequently found at Walmart and anywhere else that the Jurassic World Dominion toys have usually been sold. These pop-ups have been pretty much everywhere. So if you've seen them once, you've seen the size already. And again, they all follow that same similar size as the figures that have come before them. So these brand new Jurassic World Dominion pop-ups from Mattel, Wave 3. Again, I'm not positive if it's Wave 3, but I think it is. They're pretty fun, honestly, and I really like this wave a lot more than the first wave because we have a lot cooler species this time around. Like the first wave, I think, what did we have? Like the T-Rex, the Dilophosaurus, a Velociraptor, and potentially the Carnotaurus, I believe. Yes, the Carnotaurus was the other one. And of course, I love Carnotaurus, so that one was really exciting. But the rest are kind of species that we've seen so many times before in the Snap Squads and stuff. But this time around, we've got 4 really cool species, as we've got a Pyroraptor, which again, we never had in the Snap Squads. And I think the Pyroraptor looks really cool here. Definitely follows a similar type of look coloration-wise as the Dominion version. Of course, the sculpt isn't exactly what you would see on a Pyroraptor in the film, because these are just goofy stylized versions of Jurassic World dinosaurs, but I do really quite like the Pyroraptor. I think the Atrociraptor, though, is cooler than the Pyroraptor, and definitely looks better. It follows a more similar look to the Atrociraptors in the film, much more so than the Bendy Biters version, because the Bendy Biters version looked pretty much just like a Velociraptor, but at least this one does have some aspects of the Atrociraptors from Dominion, and a pretty fun paint scheme. Just it's not as good as it could be because it doesn't look perfect as far as the tones of color go compared to Atrociraptor Tiger. However, I would say the tones here used on this one are a lot closer than the tones that they had used on the Atrociraptor Tiger from the main line. So this one does at least have an advantage as far as that goes. Then we've got the Allosaurus, which is absolutely awesome to have an Allosaurus in this line, and it looks really cool, follows that same similar color scheme to what you see on the Allosaurus figures in the main line, and I think they definitely did a great job of bringing the Allosaurus to life in pop-up form here with this version. Very nice detail, actually probably the best paint out of all of the ones that we have here for this round. And then you've got the Ceratosaurus, which is just my favorite here in this wave because I love Ceratosaurus. I specifically love the Jurassic Park 3 Ceratosaurus, so having one here from Mattel for the pop-ups is really cool because it's something that I wanted in the Snap Squad for a long time and we never got. So having one here in the pop-ups is phenomenal, and again, the figure looks really cool. Almost has that Jurassic Park 3 type of a paint scheme to it. Very close, but not quite as far as the tones on the body, but it pretty much has the gist of what a JP3 Ceratosaurus looks like, so I'm happy that they went with that coloration that's more similar to a JP3 type of color. And again, as a whole, all of these are really cool releases that I'm very, very happy to now have in my collection. So if you are interested in picking these up, head to your local Target because that's where I found mine. So make sure you grab these if you can find them, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.